Okay, so if you'd like to know what this video is about, please just go to the description below and, well, read the description, of course. So the first things first is you want to follow simple basic OH&S rules and preparation of your work. First thing is you want to make sure you've got a clean working environment. As you can see here, I'm on flat level ground, which is cleanly swept. That way I've got a nice clean working environment. Things you'll want to have in hand when performing this job on the Briggs and Stratton 450 series classic engine is you'll want a can of either, most likely, carby cleaner. That's the best stuff to use, but I'll be using degreaser only to get rid of grot and grime. I will not be using it in the carburetor, but if you want to get rid of the whole shebang, I recommend the use of carby cleaner. Tools you're going to need: Phillips head screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, a 5/16 of an inch socket, a 1/2 inch socket, a 3/8 of an inch socket, as well as a socket extension. You may want to have some gloves handy when you get to the messy work. You'll also need a socket wrench and either a spinner or a shifter of some sort to take the spark plug off, or even better, a spark plug socket. So let's get down to basics. First and most simple thing we can do here is to take the muffler off. Now when you look at the muffler, there's no screws on there, and you might be wondering, how the hell are you going to take that off, Jakey Dill? Well, it's pretty simple. I've already used both hands to do it, but the first thing you got to do is make sure it's not hot, because if you go touching it when it's hot, you're just going to burn your hand right off, and you're probably going to get 3rd-degree burns, and you'll have to go to hospital to get them all treated. But anyway, this engine's cool, so it's safe to work on, and I recommend, if it is hot, the use of like thick gloves. Don't use your mother's oven mitts, because she'll probably go nuts at you. But yeah, the use of thick gloves to take it off if it is hot. But before working on any engine, first thing you need to do is to disconnect the spark plug lead. Secure that up somewhere safe. I like to sit it on there. That way there ain't going to be no accidental starting when we're working on the mower. So you've used 2 hands to pre-loosen the muffler, and all you simply do is you turn it anti-clockwise. As you can see. Now, if your muffler's heavily clogged full of gum and gunk, just simply get your carby cleaner and spray it down in that hole there, and just keep spraying and slosh it around, and then get some water and rinse it out, and it'll come out the exhaust here. So we'll put that over to the side here and let that sit. Second thing we need to do is to remove the spark plug. Now I've already pre-loosened it with the shifter, but if you don't know how to do that, you'll pretty much line her up on there, tighten her up using this gauge here, and you'll turn anti-clockwise to the point where it becomes finger loose. Once it's become finger loose, make sure it's not hot. You simply undo it by hand, and she'll pop off like that. Now it's a good idea to observe the spark plug, and that just gives you an idea of how the engine's running. It's pretty simple spark plug reading. This is only a new spark plug, so I can't really tell for the meantime. But once again, just put that over somewhere secure. Third thing we can do is to take the air filter off. Now in order to do that, you'll need your flathead screwdriver. You put in this screw here, and you turn in an anti-clockwise direction. At some point the screw will come out far enough to the point you can put your fingers on there, and when that happens, just simply use your fingers to turn the screw anti-clockwise until it comes out. When it comes out, take the screw out, and the air filter housing will simply pop off like so. You want to make sure the air filter ain't clogged full of gum. This one's extremely clean, because I cleaned it, so you'll want to put that off to the side. and this screw, just to prevent any dirt from going into the carburetor there. Just screw it back in a couple of turns. Alright, now the third thing we're going to do is we're going to take the pull start cover off. So you'll need your 3/8 socket to undo a screw here, one right near the oil fill here, and the last right at the back of the mower on the fuel tank side just here. Undo those 3 bolts and then she'll lift off. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that we've gotten the bolts finger loose, we'll simply turn these 3 bolts anti-clockwise. There's bolt number 1. The one near the oil fill. Bolt number 2. And bolt number 3. What you want to do is just sit them somewhere aside and secure where you won't lose them. So we'll just sit them there for now. And this cover here, after having done that, we'll just simply pop off. It might feel a little secure because the rotor here that creates a spark is magnetic. So what you want to do is just sit that somewhere secure, and we'll place these 3 bolts in here, that way we don't lose them, followed by our spark plug and our muffler. Our next step is taking the fuel tank and the primer carb off from the block of the engine. For this job here, you will need your 3/8 of an inch socket again to undo 1 bolt here, and your 1/2 inch socket to undo another bolt there. Please take note that when undoing this bolt, there is a spacer behind it and it will drop. So be sure to pick that up once you've done that. So I'm going to go ahead and get these finger loose, and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so when undoing this bolt here, make sure you've got your socket extension, otherwise it's going to be really tricky to get it out. So you simply turn that one in anti-clockwise direction until she completely comes out, and just let it sit there for the meantime. And then this other bolt here, simply turn that one anti-clockwise as well. Don't need the socket now. Now you can sit this one with the other 3 bolts we just took off before to take the cover of the engine, because this bolt's the exact same size as them. So it doesn't matter if you get that one mixed up with these 3. They're all the same size. And you'll want to pull this bolt out. Sit that aside somewhere secure where you won't lose it. And this spacer will simply pop out like that. Sit that somewhere secure. Now this is ready to take off. Now when taking it off, it'll just be on there for the meantime, and she'll just simply pop off real easily. Once you've popped her off, just be careful, because with this fan controller here, there's a small silver linkage attached to the butterfly valve, and we'll simply I'll show you how to remove that shortly. Okay, so I've taken the fuel tank off. Just be sure to grab that white O-ring after you've taken it off, but it's pretty simple to take this linkage off. You simply push up and move the fuel tank down, up like that, and she simply pops off. Make sure there's that rubber O-ring in there, and be sure to grab the white O-ring there, and we'll simply just slot that back in there. like so. That way we don't lose it. Now, just take this little rubber thing you got here off and just slot it back on that hose there. That way we don't lose it. Now over here, you just want to make sure there's no dust in there where the starter gets in. You just give that a blow out like so, and just make sure she's all clean. Also make sure there's no rust on the coil on that here, and we'll just basically make sure it's clean. That's your coil, which creates a spark, which obviously in return makes the engine start running. Back over to the fuel tank and the carburetor here. If your tank is full of fuel or has dirt in the bottom of it, it's a good idea to get a tray or a can to put the fuel back into, and you simply just pour the fuel back out here. But I've only got a tiny amount of fuel in there and it's all clean, so it doesn't really matter. But to take the carburetor off, you'll see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 screws that you'll need to take out. So you need to get your Phillips head screwdriver, and taking it off, doesn't matter which order you do it, but putting it back on, you'll need to do opposites. So I'm going to go ahead and take all these screws out, and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so I've gotten all the screws out loose now, and all we simply do is, it'll be on there quite firm, but we just simply lift her off. Now when taking it out, be careful. Oh yeah, you want to make sure this is undone, because that'll be holding the carburetor on. So just simply take out this screw here with your fingers. Place that somewhere secure, we won't lose it. And the carburetor will simply lift off. Now don't do it all the way, because you'll see that white tube there. Simply push it back towards the larger end and pop her out like so. Now the diaphragm may become stuck there, but what you want to do is you want to check that there's no junk and gum down in there, and in there especially. If there is, just simply give it all a good clean out. And what you want to do is, I'll just get rid of the fuel in this carburetor by priming it. There's no fuel in the carburetor now. What you want to do is tip her upside down and just have a look at that diaphragm and make sure everything there is all clean and good and nothing's broken or torn or anything. But what you're looking for is right here. You want to make sure that's nice and clean, and on this little thing here you want to make sure that's nice and clean. But to clean this, you simply just wipe her off, and that'll make her clean. And this one here, be gentle, but it just simply slides off. And just have a look in there, make sure everything's nice and clean. Just give this a simple blowout, this in this direction, and she's right to go back on there. Simply slides on. If you wish, you can give the carburetor a good wash with some carby cleaner, but this carburetor is all clean. You want to check that your butterfly valve and all that works, is operating correctly. We simply just put that end back in, making sure that the diaphragm stays on there all secure. You want to line everything up all good. Make sure it's all on there firm and secure. And then we'll simply get our Phillips head screwdriver and we'll turn in opposites. So you'll simply tighten this screw here until it's nice and firm, not tight but firm, and then you'll tighten this screw here until it becomes firm. to tighten this one here until it becomes firm. Then this one just here. And then the last one just here, you tighten that till it becomes firm. Once all your screws are firm, simply repeat the process. So we go here again, and we'll make that nice and tight. Over to the opposite side, make that nice and tight. Over to here, make that nice and tight. Back to here, nice and tight, and then over the last one, make sure that's nice and tight. Once you've done all that, just re-go over all your bolts, make sure they're all tight. And then you should be right. Now we're going to go ahead and put the fuel tank back on. Make sure that your rubber and your white O-ring are there. Now over here, the first thing you want to do is take that off, place it back on there like so, and when you put your fuel tank on, you want to get that and you push your fuel tank up. So there's a little hole there right on the tip of it. You want to line it up and you want to push it in, over and up like so, and you'll simply just push it on there like that. So I'll go ahead and do that and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so what you'll want to do once you've gotten your fuel tank back on is you want to put that spacer and the bolt in there, and you want to get your other little bolt, line up the hole and slot her in there. It's a little tricky with the camera, so I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this bolt up, and I'll put this one in and I'll get back to you shortly. So this one, simply put the socket in there, start turning. Just get it nice and snug for now. And I'll go ahead and tighten these two bolts up. One step I forgot to mention is while you had your fuel tank off, if your engine was like heavily covered in carbon deposits on the valves and the piston stuff, what you'd do is through that pipe there, you'd spray a hell of a lot of carby cleaner through there, in through the spark plug port there, and in through the exhaust port here, and you'd spray a hell of a lot of carby cleaner, and then once you'd gotten the top back on without the fuel tank, you just simply turn her, get all the crap out. But we'll go ahead and put the top back on now. So you want to make sure you grab your 3 bolts. What we simply do is we get our top, and all you do is making sure that your spark plug sits in that groove just there. You get the top, stand her upright, and simply be careful because it's magnetic, as you just saw, and line her up there, making sure that goes on there nice and secure. Make sure it's all there secure, and yeah, so what we want to do is we want to get our 3/8 socket bolt. First one we'll do is this one here. So we'll line her up, and if I can, there we are, start screwing her in. And you want to just get that nice and firm. You want to get another one and do up this one here, line it all up. Alright, I'll go ahead and get these in and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put our air filter back on. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your air filter with the pointy end facing towards the back of the engine. You just simply line up this circle on here, making sure that that gasket's on there, and it'll sit there nice and snug. And then you get your long screw that was holding it all in, put it in there, and start tightening. You can't tighten it no more with your fingers. Once you've gotten to that point, you get your flathead screwdriver and you put it on there and you start turning. Just keep turning until it's reasonably firm, not tight so you can't turn it no more, just nice and firm will do. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our spark plug. Now if you've sprayed a hell of a lot of carby cleaner through here and through the exhaust port to give the engine a clean, just make sure that you pull on the pulley a few times to get all that fluid out and then clean up the mess afterwards. Simply all we're going to do is we're going to get our spark plug, slot her in there, turn her clockwise until she's firm, finger tight. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our shifter, place it on there and make sure it's the right fit. Once it's on there, we're going to turn it a quarter of a turn, or until it's very snug. Now we're not going to put the spark plug lead on there yet, as we're still working on the mower. Last thing we need to do is get the muffler, making sure that it's all dry and clean, and you simply put it on there and screw her on. Once she's on there, nice and tight, I'm going to have to put the camera down to do this job, but you're going to get both hands and tighten it very, very firm until you basically can't turn it no more. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. Alright, so the last thing we can do is we can put our spark plug lead on now that the mower is all set back together. We can turn the ignition on, prime it 3 times, 4 just in case, then we emptied out the carburetor, and we can simply start it. And that's that. Perfectly working mower. So once you've finished all there, you'll probably have a bit of mess on the body here. Just give that a nice wipe down and a clean. Pack all your tools away, and any mess that you've created, be sure to clean it up and dispose of it properly. So thanks for watching. Look forward to more videos. Goodbye.